We're back to go ahead and do the second portion of the Moto G video. This is going to be the reassembly. We can see that we have our nice clean mid-frame here. The next goal of this is to go ahead and apply some adhesive to it to make sure we can glue or adhere the new LCD assembly screen to the mid-frame of the phone. Just want to shoot through and make sure there's no additional glass pieces or anything that is stuck to the device. Make sure it's nice and clean. We're going to use some of this 3M double-sided tape I just purchased off eBay. You can actually just eBay search 3M double-sided tape and this will show up for you. I normally get a couple varieties. I have a 5, a 3, or 5, a 2, and a 1mm tape, depending upon the phone. So this first portion that I'm using at the top of this device is the 5mm tape. Then I'll be using some 1mm tape down the side of the device. So it's making sure we get it nice and adhered. We're going to go ahead and just cut this to fit down the side of the device here. We want to make sure that when we're applying the tape that none of the tape overlaps up the side wall of the frame. We want to make sure that it sits nice and flush inside the device. I'm going to use a dental pick here just to make sure that nothing overlaps and all of the corners are stuck down. Now as you do this, you want to make sure you don't cover any front-facing camera holes, sensor holes, or anything that would do that. That's all at the top of the device up here. You can see that we have the earpiece speaker hole and things like that. So we're just going to round this edge to make sure it fits right in the rounded corner of the device. We're going to put this tape down. We're going to cut it just shy of the front-facing camera hole here. It's nice and clear. And then the white spot is for notifications, I believe, so make sure you don't cover that up as well. Round the other side of the tape here, we'll go ahead and put it on the opposite side of the device. Alright, we're looking pretty good. We're just going to use a little bit thinner tape to kind of fill in the gaps that we've missed so far. So I have some 1mm tape here, nice and thin. We're just going to run this across the top to make sure that the middle of the top of the glass has something to adhere to when we stick it down. We're going to run this same exact width of tape down the side of the phone through the bezel. Making sure that the tape doesn't overlap. It's a little close here down here at the edge, but it doesn't overlap onto the other tape. We don't want any high points where it wouldn't fully adhere to the tape behind it, so make sure that you lay it out nice and flat. It's a little long, so I'm just going to cut it a little bit shorter. Just put it down and make sure that it's lined up, stuck down all the way down the side of the device. Fill in a little bit more gaps down the front of the phone. Make sure you don't cover up any of the sensor ports here on the front of the device. The goal is to apply as much area for the screen to adhere to as you can without covering anything up. You want to make sure that if it's in the heat or in the cold that the screen doesn't start to pry away from the mid-frame. Put a little thin piece in between this notification sensor and the front-facing camera. Alright, just double checking the edges on these pieces of tape to make sure that when we go ahead and pull the backing off, they're all going to go ahead and stay down. We'll go ahead and start removing the backing off of the tape that we've put down, making sure that there's no high spots in the tape. Let's take the back off every single piece that we've put on. The little 1mm tape can be a little bit tricky. As you try to pry it up, sometimes the tape will try to come up with it. So you want to make sure that as you lay it down, before you pull the backing off of it, that you tap down on kind of the sides of it first before you start to try to pull the backing off. You have a lot more success that way. Alright, got all the backing off. The next step is to go ahead and apply the screen. We actually need to remove this earpiece speaker off of the old piece of glass here. You can see we also have this little piece from the front-facing camera that came off the glass as well. We need to make sure we move both of these two things over. The front-facing camera piece is actually smaller than the hole itself, so we'll have to apply that to the glass once we get the glass put onto the device. The earpiece speaker is actually pretty stuck onto this piece of glass, so instead of trying to remove it and breaking the phone, I'm going to go ahead and heat it up on the opposite side here real fast. That way I can give it an easy removal. Go ahead and use our thin pry tool here to go ahead and lift this off of the glass. Now that we have all the pieces we need, we'll go ahead and re-adhere this to the mid-frame of the device. Make sure you remove any coverings off of the LCD. You can see that this one has that blue cover on the backlight, so we'll go ahead and peel that back. And that will allow us to go ahead and insert this into the mid-frame. It's a little tricky to get this cable in. I actually think I do it wrong this first time here. Oh, we got it in, maybe. Nope. So you want to make sure when you put it in that you put it in the direction that it would lay down within the phone. You may just have to finagle it a little bit because it's an odd shape for a cable. Here we go. We'll go ahead and try that again. This is a much better plan this time. Perfect, there we go. We go ahead and put the sides into the bezel, make sure that everything lines up. Go ahead and press down into the corners, the sides of the device. Make sure that it's meeting inside of the mid-frame of the phone. Make sure the ribbon cable is pulled all the way through. Make sure it's nice and stuck down, so just take a few seconds to press down on every area of the frame and the glass of the new display we put on. We'll go ahead and put the little metal backing back in. It's easy to kind of actually fold this in the middle and then pop it down. Seems to be the best way to do so. It clips in just on the edges. You'll see where it clips in on the mid-frame of the phone. They'll line up with the little barcode underneath for the cutout of the little metal mid-frame. See how I bent it in the middle and popped it down into place? Try that again here real fast. Perfect, there we go. Now we're going to go ahead and take the pieces that we need to reapply to the new glass here. The little foam for the front-facing camera so it sits nice and flush on the device and that you drop your phone, it doesn't get moved around too much. We're just going to put that on the end of these tweezers here and see if this will help us put it into place. It goes right inside of the front-facing camera area. Just like so. We also need to put in our earpiece speaker. I'd make note of the way that it was adhered to the new piece of glass, or to the old piece of glass, so you can put it on the correct direction on the new piece. Take our logic board. And pop it into place. You see the 4 posts in all the corners, so make sure you line it up with those 4 posts. Then it just sits straight down onto the mid-frame of the phone. It's not hard to install. Just pushing down to make sure it's adhered to the device. A little bit tricky on this corner here. There we go. Go ahead and slide the ribbon cable into the ribbon cable slot, making sure that the flip-up bar is pulled up. We'll insert that ribbon cable in as far as it will go. We'll go ahead and pop it down. Go ahead and push the ribbon cable back down. Normally there's still some adhesive that'll hold it down for you from the first cable. Put our little plastic grommet back over it to protect it. Go ahead and put our battery back on. It'll basically line up with the front or the rear facing camera at the bottom. Usually try to connect the ribbon cable first and then adhere the battery to the device to make sure I get the correct length. The ribbon cable is a little bit funky on this, the connector. It just sits right down on top. You just have to press it in place. You want to make sure the pins are lined up correctly before you do so. We don't want to damage the battery. Make sure your battery's pretty straight. You want to make sure it's going to line up with the little plastic cover we're going to put on the mid-frame here. We do need to make sure we put our power button and our volume buttons back in. And they're not too hard to get into the right spot. Just checking all of my connections here. The power buttons only go in and the volume button only goes in one direction. So you won't be able to put those in backwards. With that done, we're going to go ahead and put the battery cover back onto the device. Perfect. This is a good point to actually make sure all the clips are pushed in. We're also going to just power the device on here real fast and make sure that the LCD screen is going to function for us. There we go. Perfect. While the device powers on, now that you know the LCD works, we're going to go ahead and put the torque screws back into the rear side of the device while it boots up. Sorry, my camera lost its charger. I had to connect a power cable to it. We're just going to go ahead and reinsert all of the torque screws into the rear of the device. Not putting them extremely tight, I'm just putting them in nice and snug. You don't want to strip any of the screw holes out, they are all plastic. And these screws do have some pretty beefy threads on them. So don't put them in too tight, we just want to hold everything down. There's enough of them in the back of this device that one being slightly loose won't make a difference. Just a few more to go. Man, there are so many screws on the back of this phone. I'm just going to throw the back cover on here real fast. And snap it down. Check all the corners. Make sure that the touchscreen function is going to work, which it totally does. If you guys like the video, go ahead and hit the like button. If you want to see any future videos, go ahead and subscribe to me. And always, if you have comments, throw them down in the comments. And I appreciate you guys watching the video.